Hello. Welcome to today's broadcast of Make Politics Interesting. And we've got a lot to chat about, as always. I don't have a long time to chat, though. But thanks for dropping in. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene just announced that she's been appointed to the Homeland Security Committee. This is a woman who's previously latched on to conspiracy theories, entirely fabricated conspiracy theories that there was no plane on 9/11 that crashed into the Pentagon. As sane people will remember, it didn't destroy that much of the Pentagon, but I think 11 people still lost their lives, and the plane fell slightly short of entirely crashing into the Pentagon, hence the relatively low level of damage. And this woman, anyway, subscribes to a lot of fabrications. And everybody may remember, who's a regular listener, one of my favorite quotes from Voltaire, which is that those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. So yes, I don't trust unrepentant, incorrigible lies of Marjorie Taylor Greene's stature in the Hall of Fame of Incorrigible Liars. So yes, that's this afternoon's news. What other news is there? Let's have a look. A GOP failed candidate was arrested for his role in paying people, allegedly, to shoot into the homes of Democratic officials. So their 10-year-old daughter, her bedroom was fired into by someone who heavily bought into Donald Trump's methodology of undermining democracy by challenging the results and fabricating a narrative that things had been stolen from him. So this is a failed GOP candidate who did the same thing, who bought into that, and we're going to have a little listen. This is a clip for 2 minutes and 40 seconds from MSNBC.
And we begin this morning with the arrest of a failed Republican candidate accused of being the mastermind behind a series of shootings at the homes of Democratic lawmakers. Police took Solomon Pena into custody yesterday, calling the shootings politically motivated. Back in November, Pena lost his race for state representative.
I'm just going to note that you can be part of a generalized white supremacy, white wealth protection racket, because at a certain level it becomes a wealth protection racket and an aspirational wealth protection racket, even if you yourself don't have standout white skin. You can be theoretically white adjacent. You can aspire to being part of a perceived in-group, particularly if you have some unresolved feelings of shame and disgust at being part of a minority group if you associate negative things with your own membership of that group. So Solomon Pena, as they pronounced his name, is likely to be of Latino backgrounds. Which country, I don't know. Like his jacket, the North Face. But yes, his alleged actions are thoroughly reprehensible, and I'll continue listening to this reporting.
And complained the election was rigged. Police say he confronted the Democrats at their homes with what he claimed were documents proving he had won his race. And that's when things allegedly took a turn. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard joins us now. Vaughn, what more do we know this morning?
Yeah, Jose, as the mayor of Albuquerque said yesterday, this was not only a conspiracy that was dangerous to these individuals, but a conspiracy that was dangerous to democracy here. The prosecutors, a U.S. attorney, outlined what they contend and they allege Solomon Pena to be the mastermind of. This is an individual who, to note, he was running for state representative as a Republican, challenging an incumbent Democrat in New Mexico. He lost his November election 74% to 26%. But in the days after his election defeat, he went to the homes of not only county commissioners, but also state legislators with what he alleged was paperwork showing fraud in his election. He makes the case that his election was rigged.
And he lost by 45%.
But then days after going and presenting what he claimed to be evidence of the election rigging, he put out on Twitter that he was not going to concede and that he was, quote, now researching my options. Well,
just so everybody knows, it's historical tendency that fascist and fascist-aligned people coalesce around the idea that you can use violence and intimidation to achieve political aims. So this pattern of behavior highlights the relationship between those who, without cause, denied the legitimacy of certain elections and then escalated to violent behavior.
Prosecutors now outline that in those following days, he conspired and he paid cash money to 4 other individuals to go and shoot at the homes of 2 county commissioners and 2 state legislators. There were 4 different days in which the shootings of these homes took place, beginning on December 4th. And then the final incident, that 4th incident, was on January 3rd. And prosecutors allege that Pena himself, on that 4th incident, went to one of those homes and attempted to fire a weapon himself. That weapon, they say, malfunctioned. And in hours after that, ultimately, the police pulled over a vehicle that was registered to Pena. There was a different driver inside who was arrested. Several weapons were confiscated inside of that vehicle here. But this is a serious allegations. And of course, none of those individuals were actually believed to be physically harmed in this incident. Yet, clearly there was a conspiracy and somebody who was living in a different reality who sought to take measures into his own hands.
Living in a different reality, that's an important word, and it's something that's become sadly very commonplace in these well, I'm not going to say sadly, it's our time. We are living in an era that has these challenges. It's up to us to rise to the level of the challenge. So I'm not going to say sadly, because I don't want us to get caught up in tragedy over some generic trend. We can save those emotions for personal tragedies or tragedies that we relate to. But yes, in the big picture, this is undesirable and something to bolster all our energy and momentum to counteract, to oppose, and to stand strong in support of self-governance and peace and justice. So Christopher's here. Hello, Christopher. He says hi. Nice to see you. But I'm always glad when people in the media admit that, yes, the type of people who've bought into Trump-style election denialism are living in an alternate reality. And I say that without worrying about accusations of hypocrisy, because I have personally claimed at length that Donald Trump's election to the Oval Office was illegitimate by virtue of the significant evidence of illegitimate help received from an adversarial foreign government, namely that of Russia, which has a government that's very motivated by antagonism to the entire West and likes to disprove the integrity of Western democracy in order to uphold the virtues of its own autocratic form of kleptocratic autocracy. Big phrase, but I'll unpack it. Kleptocratic means pertaining to theft. You've probably heard of the word kleptomania, meaning a compulsion to steal. So klepto meaning theft, and kleptocracy, governance that facilitates theft by the governing elite. And autocracy meaning not a democracy, a power structure that's very consolidated in the top and isn't subject to democratic forces of free and fair elections. So America's system of upholding free and fair elections, or having free and fair elections, was definitely contorted, distorted, perverted, what have you, in 2016, when one of the candidates was accepting and even welcoming help and assistance in a number of ways and promises of further assistance from members of that, from agents of that kleptocratic, theft-orientated, despotic government, the failed state of Russia. I call it a failed state because the government has failed to be something that occurs in the interests of the people of Russia. The Russian government protects Vladimir Putin and his cronies and various cooperating fossil fuel magnates that hand over a share of their profits to Putin and help incentivize him to undermine Western democracies that would otherwise address more efficiently the problems of humanity, namely the problems of climate change and overuse of fossil fuels. Democracies that are functioning in an entirely healthy way would have taken action long ago and would have had more intense investments in renewable energy. Whereas right now, I believe it was Martin Luther King who said, we have socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. And I would just add the word subsidies to that to make it more obvious. So just to supplement Dr. King's encapsulation of the problem, subsidies via socialism and tax breaks for the wealthy and rugged individualism for the poor. There are SNAP benefits. There are some government safety net programs that have begun since the time that Dr. King was cruelly taken from this life too early by the actions of racist murderers. But overall, there is still a lot of systematic prejudice against people who are poor in the United States, a prejudice that often has its rationalization scaffolding located alongside of or folded into a type of prosperity gospel that's a perversion from what I understand of the teachings of Christianity, that instead the prosperity gospel, what does that hold to be true? That if you have wealth, then God has blessed you, and if you don't, then you have somehow displeased God, and hence he is withholding monetary success from you. And so your poverty is evidence of a curse associated with your own actions. And that type of belief, and even peripheral to that type of negative association with poverty, that it's a punishment, that it's a proof of unworthiness, that type of belief and just even sentiments adjacent to that belief are a strong cause of insufficient political support and insufficient goodwill in America for social safety net. I've got to go, but I'll be back.